My name is John Rogers. I am a screenwriter. I currently run the TV show Leverage on TNT. Chris Downey, Dean Devlin, and I created the show. We actually, one of those just weird stories, Dean Devlin was talking about doing a series with TNT at the same time Chris Downey and I were talking about, where's that great Rockford Files con and heist show? We just don't have those anymore. And coincidentally, Dean and I had lunch the next day, and he said, TNT wants me to do a show, and I want to do a group. And I said, well, my buddy and I were talking about this. Dean and I were friends. We pitched it and sold it within 2 weeks. I actually wanted to be a mystery writer, and I wanted to write sparkling banter and dialogue. So I became a stand-up to kind of learn how jokes worked and get just a better sense of it. And it turned out I was doing my physics degree at the time, and it turned out I was a much better stand-up than I was a physicist. So I wound up doing stand-up, did a bunch of specials, got my own sitcom for a minute and a half. But after the sitcom didn't go, I was back auditioning and the writers went to the next job. And I thought, that job, the one where you fail and get another job, I want that. So I eventually wound up circling back into writing and became a television writer. I don't just write television and movies. I've also written comic books over the last 10 years. I started by doing independent work for Boom Studios and their anthologies like Zombie Tales and Ninja Tales and that sort of thing. That eventually led to writing Blue Beetle for 2 years for DC and the old line. And now I'm writing the Dungeons & Dragons comic for IDW. So my geek cred is firmly established. It was a little daunting to do the Dungeons & Dragons comic book because everyone is so very attached to it, and that's why I didn't do one of the worlds. I didn't do Forgotten Realms, I didn't do any of the other ones. I took the core world that was very undefined, so I wouldn't be walking on anybody's previous work, and I wouldn't be walking on any preconceptions. Interestingly enough, we actually did much better in the comic press and got much better reviews than amongst the role-playing press because role-playing fans tend to read very big, thick fantasy books and aren't necessarily into serialized storytelling the way the comic books are. So it wound up being more I'm writing a Dungeons & Dragons comic for the comic fans. It goes role-playing game, video game, tabletop, I think just because I like the story elements. If I can't get a role-playing game group on a regular basis, I play video games, and I always play it splits between the strategy games and the big open world games. But to be honest, most of the fun I have is dissecting games almost more than playing them. I love game design because game design boils down to how you tell stories through mechanical means. And screenwriting is all about how you tell stories through mechanical means. You're bound by act breaks. You're bound by characters. You're bound by genre. You're bound by budget. And so there's a lot of crossover in game design, game space, storytelling games, and writing. I think really I'd love to do a modern fantasy show. I think the audience is receptive to magic in a way that mainstream publishers and broadcasters don't understand. Harry Potter was huge, Lord of the Rings was huge, and we have no TV shows reflecting that in any way, shape, or form. And to me, that's just money left on the table and storytelling space left on the table. Gaming is creativity.